DUSA Radio was founded in 2009, and since then has been bringing the students of the University of Dundee truly outstanding music, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hello and welcome to the first and many of the DUSA, the Unions, and the University of Dundee's Mental Health Society's Mental Health Series podcasts. And we're live, 11 o'clock a.m. We're in the studio, bright and early. How's everyone feeling?
Champion.
Yeah. I guess we'll go around and introduce everyone. I'm Dominic Younger, Vice President of Communications and Campaigns.
Hiya, I'm Ellie Rankin. I'm the President of the Mental Health Society here.
I'm Tara and I'm the Vice President of Student Welfare at the Union. Yeah.
And I'm Tom Garnett, a graduate of this fair institution, 1969 to 1973, and I work with Dundee Association for Mental Health, and I'm delighted to be on DUSA Radio.
Fantastic. So, Ailey, do you want to kind of introduce what this is all about and tell the folks at home why we're doing this?
Hiya, so this is a series of 4 interviews over one each week over the month of November as part of Mind Matters Month. So it's a series of interviews where we're interviewing various people who work within the mental health sector about their experience of working within that sector and their views on mental health and current issues to do with mental health today. So Tom's our first one, and then over the next few weeks we'll have Mike Ramsey, who's a mental health nursing lecturer here at the University of Dundee. Then the week after that we'll have Fiona Grant, who is the mental health nurse here at Student Health Services, and then finally we'll have another mental health nurse by the name of Jackie Hood, who's a mental health nursing lecturer at the University of the West of Scotland and a former addictions and alcohol mental health nurse as well.
Fantastic. A lot to talk about in too little time, probably. So Tom, how did you get into working with mental health?
I suppose the most important thing for me is the time I came to university, 1969. I was interested in human behaviour, which I thought I was going to study through reading literature, get a degree in English, and then because of the social science faculty I was in, I studied psychology, became fascinated with that and thought actually I'd rather pursue psychology as the degree and continue to read books, which I have continued to do. But I'm just fascinated by human behaviour. I actually think that some of the best studies of human behaviour are written by a gentleman called William Shakespeare. King Lear is a wonderful study of dementia. And so I just want to know what makes me tick. I want to know what makes everybody tick. And what I absolutely treasure is I get to spend at the moment, because I love live music, a heck of a lot of time with people who are about 40 years younger than me, and I actually find that keeps my passion and enthusiasm going, because why I'm interested in mental health problems is I have experienced them myself. I think, in all honesty, I don't think there's anybody who hasn't at one time in their life experienced stress, anxiety, depression, some of the more severe conditions. ADHD is one that interests me greatly, because I'm not quite sure that it is as prevalent as some doctors seem to be making it. So I just think we need to study what kind of a world we want to have, how people cope in it, and what are the stressors that make it harder for some people to cope, and how do we reduce those levels of stress.
Would you say that music reduces your levels of stress? Has that been a companion?
I would put it the other way around and say music absolutely enhances my mood. And I was out in Dundee last night, Clark's at North Lindsay Street, Buffalo Soldiers.
Perfect.
If you can't get in a better mood by listening to Exodus or Redemption Song or any of the other things. So yes, my music for me, and that why I love coming onto this is I didn't know until Ellie told me that I got to choose 5 songs.
Yes, you did.
And I've always wanted to be on Desert Island Discs. And this is the closest I'm ever going to come to it, I think.
Well, we can't call it that, but we can definitely call it DUSA Radio Discs. And so on that note, what is your first song?
I don't know what order they're coming in. I have to remind me. It's Kerrine Polwart, who I just discovered coming past Great Shows on the way up here, is playing in Rosangle Art Cafe on the 15th of December, and I didn't know, and they're sold out. Kerrine's a graduate of this university. I've seen her play several times, and the song I've chosen, called King of Birds, is a song that combines St Paul's Cathedral, Christopher Wren, the Occupy movement when they occupied St Paul's, and this competition that the Birds had as who could fly highest, and it was the Wren that was able to. And I just think she got a beautiful voice. She's a beautiful person, as most Scottish people are in my experience.
Fantastic. So here we are, King of Birds.
On the cracked and blackened cobbles of the town, the ashes fall to rest as the tiny king of birds he flutters down to build a citadel to light glory in the dark, and from hell to breathe hope in every heart. At Ludgate Hill, through the siren screams, the heavens burn again. The city holds its breath as the tiny little king in slumber bed arises from the dust to light glory in the dark, and through the frost to breathe hope in every heart. Huddle in as the tiny king of birds begins to cry. The people start to sing to light glory in the dark, to ring the bell and to breathe hope in every heart.
Oh, that was hauntingly beautiful. So, what does that kind of make you feel? Does it?
Serene, I think I'd probably describe that. It's such a beautiful song. It's a lovely arrangement, but also, although it makes me feel serene, there's a political message. And on that album, she also does a song about Donald Trump and the golf course, which again is wonderful because she's able to put beautiful music combined with a political message, which I think is a very important political message about the powerful and the greedy, as I would term them. And that song we just listened to and others that she does, again, I'm possibly more fiercely patriotic about Scotland than most people who were born here. But then I've been here 46 years, so I think I'm now either nationalised or naturalised. And it just there's something for me about the beauty of this country, almost wherever you go. And we were just talking off air about Lewis, and I was blown away when I went up there. And the history of it is poignant, but it's I just think so many people are not aware of the luck that they have, despite all the problems we have in Scotland. But to live in this country, I regard as a huge privilege. But in the end, I chose to come here. No, I didn't. Actually, I got in on clearing. It was an accident.
Yeah. Likewise, but a happy accident.
Happy accident, yeah, exactly.
Those are the best. I you know, you can talk about coincidence or destiny or whatever in life, but there are things sometimes you think that was meant. But you still got to make the best of it. But let's celebrate when we have the opportunity to. And again, I go back to the music. Music for me is one of the greatest ways of celebrating the magic and mystery of being a human being.
Exactly.
Fab. Well, we'll move a wee bit on to some mental health issues then. So we've got a few questions that we've got sent in for you. So I'm just going to throw you in the deep end and ask you the first one.
That's where I always get thrown in.
Okay, so the first one is, do you feel there's, given your experience in working in the mental health sector, there's a difference in how men and women deal with emotional distress?
I don't think there's any question about it, honestly. The best way I can answer it is, I've worked with Dundee Association for Mental Health for 30 years. The team I work with, I cannot speak highly enough of, but for the bulk of those 30 years, the people I've been working with have been female. And it's for a whole number of reasons. But what fascinates me is when we're sitting in the morning talking, it seems to me that the female of the species are able to read each other's minds when they're speaking about something and finish each other's sentences and just leave it hanging and know exactly what they're talking about. And I sit there thinking, what's going on? I'm not understanding any of this. So, okay, bit of gender stereotyping, not necessarily recommended, but I do think, as somebody who's 64 years old, I was brought up, big boys don't cry, big boys don't show their emotion, don't show their feelings, you've got to have stiff upper lip. I think it's nonsense. Yeah. But I think it's about the ways that we communicate, and I just think, you know, intellectually there's not much difference that I'm aware of, but at an emotional level, different ways of communicating in my experience.
So do you feel that men would you say then, well, this is the second part of this question, do you feel then that men maybe spend more time trying to find, say, a quick solution, or spend less time talking about their emotions?
Well, it's I think to talk about your feelings is somehow, in terms of gender stereotyping, that's not something men are expected or supposed to do. So if you do, then you're being some kind of soft, wishy-washy. And as far as how they're dealing with it, what distresses me hugely is the level of young male suicide that is prevalent in society today. So that is an extreme example of how people demonstrate that they can't cope with it. And then the other avenues are often to do with what's called self-medicating. So alcohol, in order to just anaesthetise the pain that sometimes maybe people, which will never be the answer. It may blot it out for that period of time, or other substance abuse. So oblivion is often what people aim for, just to blot out the pain that they experience in their life. And yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to ask the second part of your question. You actually just answered for me, because I was going to ask, well, if you felt men struggle to find help because of this. So I guess just I'd suggest that. Do you feel then, or?
Yeah, I do, but then I've mentioned that I spend a lot of time in the company of younger people, and that's because of the music that they play.
Yeah.
And I do think that finding other ways to express yourself other than just stringing sentences together.
So you feel that's the solution to it then, maybe?
I think it's one avenue.
Okay.
As Dominic asked about, does music enhance my life? And it does without question, but it also allows you to express things in ways that just straight conversation. It reaches parts of the heart, the soul, that just language, because it's very difficult to describe human behaviour, because we're talking about how we work, and so we're having to reflect on ourselves, and that's very important. So in mental health, the insight, having some knowledge of what makes you feel good about yourself and other people, what brings you down, and what your hopes and your aspirations are. So all those are the important things of life. Is how we can be the best people we can, and how we can be best to other people that we can, and that's more important. 7th of November, 2015, the challenges facing the world at the moment, the planet, at whatever level you want to look at it, and it is only going to be solved if we exchange our thoughts, fears, aspirations, dreams. And as of 2 weeks ago, I'm a grandparent for the 4th time, and what drives me, thank you, not necessarily directly to do with me, but I realised actually when the grandchildren started coming along that I'd thought about the next generation, but actually then I think about the generation after that, and everything I've done for the last 18 years, when my first granddaughter was born, everything's been for them, because I'd like to see social justice, I'd like to see a fairer world, and it's not a fair world at the moment, in my opinion. The places where power resides, I really, really don't know how they get away with it, but they're allowed to, and so it's so complicated when you deal with anything to do with human behaviour, because it is how did we end up being who we are, but also how does society work, and how do we make it a fairer and juster world.
There you go.
Thank you for that.
That's okay.
3 big questions.
Should we move on to your second song, your second track?
And I believe we may be having a Canadian called Neil Young, who, when I came to Dundee, the song that was playing, or the album that was playing in 1969 was called Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere. This is the album before it, his first one, Here We Are in the Years, and there's a line in it where he sings, "Lives become careers," and it took me a long time to find out what my career was, because I always thought that was a recipe for disaster, just to pigeonhole yourself. But and it's an ecological song as well. He talks about the paving over of countrysides to make shopping centres and so on. And so I'm a huge fan. It's his 70th birthday next Thursday, and we're having a little birthday party for him. Unfortunately, he can't make it. But in Brewdog in Dundee, a few of the local artists are going to be singing Neil Young songs.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And oh yes, looking forward to it. I'm going to channel Neil Young that night because I'm going to appear as if I was Neil Young.
Incredible. Well, happy birthday, Neil Young.
Can relax and watch the sun rise above all of the beautiful things they've done. Go to the country, take the dog, look at the sky without the smog, see the world, laugh at the farmers feeding hogs, eat hot dogs. What a pity people from the city can't relate to the slower things that the country brings. Time itself is bought and sold, spreading fear of growing old, contains 1,000 foolish games that we play. Well, people planning trips to stars allow another boulevard to claim a quiet country lane. It's insane. So the subtle face is a loser this time around. Here we are in the years where the showman shifts the gears, lives become careers, children cry in fear, let us out of here.
Based on the story of, what's his name? A guy who went and lived out in Alaska with the bears. And there's a film called Into the Wilderness, something like that. It's a beautiful film. And he lived with them, but then eventually actually bears did what bears sometimes are prone to do as wild animals.
They had a picnic. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ate all the fun.
But Pigeon Song, when I first heard Anderson, McGinty, Webster, Ward and Fisher, that was the song that just leapt out of the speakers at me. And I only chose When the Ship Went Down, partly because I was at the concert where they performed it live. Mm-hmm. But also I thought if it was Desert Island Discs, then When the Ship Went Down, that would, but then it's not Desert Island Discs, so it doesn't matter.
Do some radio disc, okay. And so we're back. That was Neil Young, a fantastic singer-songwriter, touched a lot of generations. Does he have a special place in your heart?
Absolutely, because so many of the songs that he sings strike a chord with. I was at Wembley Stadium in September 1974 when Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young were performing, and there's a track on After the Gold Rush called Only Love Can Break Your Heart, and when the opening chords on the piano started, 100,000 people went and then they started quietly singing along. When you were young and on your own, how did it feel to be alone? And it just went up and up and up. And at the end, 100,000 people, it felt to me, were just singing along with the first supergroup. So yes, I mean, he's just been so important in my life, because he's, 12th November 1945, so he's just about 5.5 years older than me. But some of the stuff that he's written, I just find, "Keep on rocking the free world" is quite a good sentence.
So,
Fantastic.
I've got another few more questions for you then. So, what would you say has been the most significant change in either mental health support or the mental health sector that you've witnessed yourself in the past 30 years working for the Dundee Association?
It would have to be something I came across, was introduced to by a colleague from the Lanarkshire Association for Mental Health, who'd read an article about an American idea being promoted called recovery. And Ricky and I looked at this and thought, this is actually putting into words exactly what we feel about a more positive approach in the way to mental health problems. And recovery is simply defined as living well in the presence or absence of symptoms. So it's getting away from mental illness as a psychiatric condition which is treated through medication and therapy, and it's actually looking at what people can do, getting away from the deficits, the disability, and actually looking at the strengths, the talents. And that I came across 15 years ago. We're trying to put that into practice. There's a launch happening 25th of November at Discovery Point, where a number of voluntary sector mental health organisations, the Health Board and the Dundee City Council are all coming together to try and promote a positive message of the contribution people can make to improving their situation, but also other people's situation. And so it's just such a simple idea for me. And my experience, having spent 4 years in academia, and you can spend a lot of time dancing on the head of a pin, but actually some of the simplest ideas are the best ideas. And what I think we need to do is just consistently apply a certain set of rules, principles, values about how we treat and regard each other, irrespective of gender, race, sexual preference, the whole gamut. Actually just recognising each other's humanity and then working with that. That's the bit for me. And in particular, because of the stigma that's attached to mental illness, recovery allows us to look at what people can do in their lives and improve their own sense of well-being, comfortable in themselves and about themselves. And the more we can do that, and the more people realise, and it's what Dominic just asked me about Neil Young, he sings about things that I identify with so strongly, and you realise how many people have similar shared experience if they share it. But if you don't talk about it, then you don't discover that.
Do you feel then that this move to recovery has helped society view mental health or coping with mental health as we would say with a physical illness, for example?
Absolutely. I mean,
the
the number of people who've said to me over the years, I don't know much about mental health, and I have to correct them, because yes, of course, people don't sit and say, I don't know much about physical health, but it's this notion that mental illness is this rarefied, part of life that you need experts to come in and solve. And yes, we do need people who have knowledge and experience and expertise. We need to know the role of medication. We need to know the role of particular therapies. But we must never lose sight of the person and the humanity of that person and what allows that person to... I said in the blurb I gave you, Ailey, about my profile, about who'd influenced me in psychology, and a guy called Maslow, who went from basic human needs right up to self-actualization. And I always thought, that would be nice. I wonder if it's ever possible to self-actualize. I'm working on it.
I wonder if you could maybe briefly describe like what the situation in the mental health sector had been before then recovery was introduced.
I mean, if you look at the history of the treatment of mental illness over the centuries, you had Bedlam, where people were figures of fun.
Yeah.
Victorians introduced the lunatic asylum, which at that time was a huge step forward compared with what had gone before. But here in Dundee, we had Royal Dundee Lift Hospital, previously known as West Green, 7 miles out of town, beautiful countryside, beautiful grounds, but so far out of the city that for people then to get back and care in the community, which is where I came in the mid-80s, was about actually trying to help people to live in the community and support people in the community, rather than saying, you have mental illness, you need to go to that hospital and you'll stay there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And so there's been a shift in where the support is provided geographically, but there's also been a shift in the attitudes towards mental illness. And in the late 60s, early 70s, when I do think it was quite a radical time and a lot of the establishment was being challenged, and that in particular was this notion of what constituted madness, because at that time, it wasn't all that long earlier that we were almost on the brink of a third world war, with the possibility of JF Kennedy or Khrushchev pressing a button that would have landed nuclear bombs. And R.D. Laing, who's another person I mentioned as very influential.
The Scottish psychiatrist, the Glasgow.
Yeah, Scottish psychiatrist, who gets a mixed press, and some people claim he was anti-psychiatry, which I think is nonsense. He just thought you should listen to what the person is saying, and if you listen carefully, it will often make much more sense than you first thought. And that at that time was revolutionary, and that's going back to the 1950s. So it's all about challenging preconceptions, assumptions, and seeing individuals, not labels or diagnoses.
Fantastic, yeah.
So you just mentioned earlier that a lot of people get scared to talk about mental health. They feel that they can't. Do you feel that is one of the biggest obstacles to being able? Is that the stigma, or is it just a kind of because it's also taboo? Or
I think again it almost goes back to Ailey's questions earlier about differences between men and women. Is that to speak about your feelings or your thoughts, particularly if you have what appear to be disordered thoughts. First of all, it, by definition, then means that you have difficulty expressing yourself, articulating what you're feeling. But then when you do, then you're afraid that people will, I sometimes, if people say, what do you do? I work in mental health, you almost see them back away because they don't want to go there to talk about it. Whereas, it has improved, and the more we talk about it, and the more we talk about it to each other, the more we realise that actually it's not that uncommon. It's one of the things about the statistics around mental health. 1 in 4 at some point in their lives will experience a significant mental health problem, or will know somebody who has mental health problems. But the speaking about it, the trying to put your thoughts into language, is hugely therapeutic. To able to speak and listen to what you're saying. And I'm famous for starting a sentence and disagreeing with myself by the end of it, because I'm wanting to test out thoughts, and I'll test them out better by speaking than having them whirling around in this peculiar brain.
Fantastic. Right. I've got another wee question here. Let me see. Okay, so it's another big question, I'd say. What would you say are the biggest issues the mental health sector is facing today, in your opinion?
I have to go finance.
Okay.
We're a charity, we're a voluntary organisation. A lot of our money is from Dundee City Council, and then we raise additional money on top of that. And it's the same with lots and lots of voluntary organisations. Dundee City Council have announced that they have to save £28 million in the next 2 years. the actual state of the economy and austerity is meaning that there's less money around. And what really frightens me is some of the things that are likely to be cut are the very things that are most needed to. So in the jargon at the moment, there is health and social care integration being introduced from April next year. The idea of social work departments, healthcare, working closer together. And I welcome that. But the difficulty is that the promotion of mental health, the prevention of mental health problems before they get too serious, and then early intervention when something does happen, those for me will save money in the long run. And I always quote, and have done to Dundee City Council on occasion, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I looked it up on Google to find out where that phrase came from. So you put an ounce, in old money, 1/16 of the cost of the cure. If you get the prevention right, then problems will be less serious. And when somebody does need support, they will get it when they need it from the right person. And often that support is someone who's prepared to sit and listen. And what scares me, as I come to the end of my current career, is I think those sort of services are going to be the first to go, and actually that will just mean more problems further down the track.
I know. I remember I read a statistic actually a few weeks back in The Guardian. It was saying that we've in the last 4 years the mental health sector within the NHS has had its budget cut by 80 million overall, and 35 million of that has been this year so far, or something I've heard.
And yet politicians, David Cameron in particular, still say we want to make mental health on a parity with physical health. And I hear that said so often, but I don't see evidence of it happening. And as you say, it's actually going in the other direction. And the thing about mental health is it doesn't have the same kind of immediate appeal as the more obvious physical illnesses. So, you know, I don't want to decry the importance of finding cures for cancer and diabetes and whatever, but it is the fact that people are more comfortable dealing with physical illness. You know, there was a poster many years ago where you had people sitting around a hospital bed and said there was someone with a broken leg, and the notion was people could understand that if you've broken your leg, then you know you need help and a plaster cast, and you can see what the solution is, and you go and see them in hospital to cheer them up. But you know, would you be so understanding if instead of a broken leg you had a broken soul? You know, because that's far more difficult to deal with, because it's more intangible, it's more internal. People have greater difficulty understanding it.
Do you feel it's a mixture then between basically not seeing something physical, but also because we're not speaking about it more openly? So if, you know, we speak very openly about either our experience of, say, as you said, with, say, for example, cancer, or you know, family members having cancer, or us campaigning for any other type of physical disease. But do you feel it's because we're not speaking about this or open about it, that's part of the problem?
Historically, but
yeah.
I'm just reminded that a month ago I had the pleasure of spending 4 hours up here outside the Students' Union for World Mental Health Day, when you're having wet sponges thrown at you. But also I had the pleasure of meeting the president of the Comedy Society, who had a wonderful clown's outfit on, and the clown shoes and everything, and it's just something about finding different ways of addressing it. Humour for me, you know, I mean, I've spoken a lot about music, but when I came to Dundee, Monty Python was just starting. We used to sneak into Belmont Hall, and we didn't have a television where we lived. We used to watch on a Sunday evening, and again, it's just taking a view of the world that's different, quirky, and actually highlights the absurdity of a lot of what goes on in life and the pomposity of certain people. So they had a big down on accountants, which I think is a bit unfair. But it's just to find different ways of approaching it, and we can do that through music, through comedy, through poetry. Yeah,
we certainly found that ourselves as a society. We found that yes, folk folk are normally very happy to approach the stall usually, or even just to look even. But we found with Connor going around with us dressed as a clown giving out jokes, or even ourselves giving out jokes, folk that maybe weren't as willing to approach the stall, for example, were more than happy just to take the joke. But they thought that was a great idea, and I think they just enjoyed that. I think they'll just like the idea as well. But
it's celebrate life.
They really enjoyed it.
Celebrate the positive aspect of life. And again, the phrase, very old phrase, that's laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone. And that's actually a very poignant statement. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's to find ways of celebrating, but also find ways of supporting at the right time. And it's not rocket science, we say in our work on a regular basis. It's just simple compassion, empathy, tolerance, understanding. And I don't think that's really that much to ask.
No.
Not at all. So, in terms of celebrating, you have a third track for us?
The next one is Julie Fowlis. I acquired a CD out of the Oxfam Bookshop in Reform Street, which is one of my favourite venues in Dundee, of Beatles covers of Beatles songs, and I saw that Julie Fowlis was doing Blackbird, and what I hadn't realised until I put it on was that she was singing in Gaelic, and I'm particularly fond of that culture, having been introduced to it up on Lewis 3 years ago, and I think Julie Fowlis is just a lovely human being as well as a lovely singer. So it's a Beatles song, and I had to have a Beatles song. It's one of my selections, but as ever, I like to come at it from a slightly different angle, and I haven't a clue. I'd love to see it, whether the Gaelic is an accurate translation of Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
I'll ask my mum.
Okay, well. So anyway, that's that.
Here we go, Julie Fowlis and Blackbird. absolutely beautiful.
Oh yes, stunning track. Absolutely love it myself. She's a great artist.
You can't deny the magnificent beauty of the Gaelic language when it's being sung.
No.
And it's such just a wonderful culture, and the time I spent up on Lewis, mainly for the music, and actually to see the band, who are my last choice for this programme. But I learnt so much about the history of Lewis, and the person, Sir John Matheson, who bought it in the 18th century, having made his money out of opium. And then, and as I say, it just got such an amazing history, and there's something about the Scottish Islands, and I've only visited 4 in 46 years, and when I retire, I plan to do all of the others.
You do island hopping with Calmac, great.
Yeah. Because, you know, again, it's spectacular, and relatively easy to get to, and because I have my wonderful concessionary bus pass, my return ticket from Dundee to Ullapool cost me 50 pence.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. But also, I have to say, very unfair, because we, the baby boom generation, who are in our 60s, seem to be getting all the perks all the time, and you younger folk seem to be getting, I'm tempted to swear, but you seem to be just getting a very poor deal in comparison, and that goes back to my passion for social justice. I think it should be much fairer for all, whereas the grey vote seems to be able to wield far more power than we merit, personally, I feel.
Well, on that note, in the future then, what do you feel are the issues then feeling the mental health sector in the generations to come, essentially?
I think, going back to recovery, I think the more that we can look at and approach mental and physical health, see health, jargon term, holistically, and because I'm a great student of language, health is an Anglo-Saxon word, hal, meaning whole, and this whole thing about compartmentalising life into the physical, the mental, the emotional, the psychological, the economic, the political. I was in a social science faculty and we did it like that, but actually they are useful ways of describing the world, but they're only artifacts that in the end what we're talking about is life, the universe and everything. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It's a great film and book.
But there's again, the great thing about that is it's actually to see what is it that gives meaning and purpose to life. That's the perennial question over the millennia, going back 5,000 years, and that it's just trying to make more sense of what often seems to be an insane world, and that's I think what we'll get to terms with. So this whole notion of there are sane people and mad people. Now, the people I work with and who we try to support, I find some of the nicest people I know. Some of the people who are allegedly sane, I find are not as nice, and sometimes they're even nasty. And so, you know, this whole idea of categorising, compartmentalising, and in the end labelling and stigmatising, I think we still have to do daily work on that. And it's one of the reasons that when we were approached last year by Nicole Carter,
yes, our former president,
and out of that the Mental Health Society was set up, and I thought, how proud am I that Dundee University, of which I'm a graduate, has set up a mental health society, because that is something that is so important, and so it's to keep discussing, to keep debating, to keep challenging orthodoxies, and try and make sense of what I think is often an insane world. ecologically, what are we doing to the planet? How on earth are we allowing that to happen? I don't know, but we've got to find an answer.
No, it's true. I remember even when myself and Nicole and others set it up last year, that's what we could understand, that there'd never been something similar previously, or at all really. So yeah, so is that your message for my generation, for future generations, you know, to keep going on, so to speak, and to keep fighting this stigma and to...
Actually, if I can be allowed, I sent you the profile, and I sent you the Tom Garnett appearing in the Courier, and that came about because Jeremy Corbyn had appointed a shadow mental health minister, and a Courier reporter wanted to know what I thought about that. And in the course of me speaking to him, I mentioned that our referral rates had gone up 50% in 9 months. And he picked up on that, and then they wanted me to pose for a photograph. So I have in front of me the photograph, and this is the message I would like to give. It's not my words, it's the Dalai Lama. I don't need the headphones, but I do need my glasses on. So it's called Never Give Up. No matter what is going on, never give up. Develop the heart. Too much energy in your country is spent developing the mind instead of the heart. Develop the heart. Be compassionate, not just to your friends, but to everyone. Be compassionate. Work for peace. In your heart and in the world, work for peace. And I say again, never give up. No matter what is happening, no matter what is going on around you, never give up.
Fantastic.
I can't put it any better than that, Eddie. I just
Beautiful
love
words.
that. And I got that at the Tayport thrift shop, which is the best thrift shop in the world, and it cost me 50 pence, and it's up on a wall in our centre. And I just thought I'd like to appear in a picture with a saying of the Dalai Lama. I can be famous.
No, it's fantastic words. There's so much truth that rings to them as well, though, isn't there?
But it was what prompted me to read it was when you said that thing about persistence.
Yes.
Stamina, commitment. Never ever believe that you cannot make the world better than it is currently. And if enough people believe that, then of course we can make a better world.
And also to encourage never to believe that there's no chance of recovery. There is, you know, I remember even you saying to me at World Mental Health Day about how it's not about doing 12 steps to recovery, it's about a journey, so to speak. It's about living your life and...
Yeah, and it is the journey that is so exciting.
Yes.
And as long as you feel you're heading in the right direction, wherever you're aiming for, it may not be that you necessarily get there, but the knowledge that you're getting nearer to it.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point. It's the beautiful journey that we're all on, and often it's uncertain. The path is not there, but we're making a difference. And I think this is the start of a whole month of things that we've been working on with Ailey's Mental Health Society, as well as the sports union, to be able to break what normally happens at university up and to offer something a bit more different. So
and just picking up on the sports union reference, a lot of the activity we do in DAMH is outdoor. We have 2 walking groups. People will go off for walks around Dundee. They'll go off and get a bus any direction from here. Again, you're in some of the most beautiful countryside in the world. And we have a project which is about reconnecting with nature called Green Buds. And it's about rediscovering some of the wonders and beauties and mysticism and magic of the world, which so often we take for granted. I love the River Tay. I think that's the best river in the world. I live by it across the water. I go for walks, and it changes because it's an estuary. It changes twice a day, and if you go up on the law and look at that panorama, and we've got allotments up on the law, and people go up and garden there, and I think that's the best allotment location in the world.
Yeah.
But I am biased.
I think you're right. Dundee does seem to capture people with its beauty. It's the best thing about it. We're almost at the end there, unfortunately. I want to thank Tom very much for
Been a pleasure.
And Ailey, would you like to just briefly go through the events that we've got coming this month?
Yeah, so we, as I've already said at the beginning, we have this series of radio interviews every Saturday in the month of November. But we have also a few other events happening. So next week, for example, on the 11th at 5 p.m, in a local pub across the road from the Union, Braes, yeah, it's like, okay, I wasn't sure, I had to double check I'm allowed to say the name of the place, but yeah, so we're going to be in Braes at 5 p.m, doing a kite workshop. It's completely free, just come along yourselves, come along, bring your friends. You're welcome to bring any sort of decoration material. Myself, members of the society, and a girl called Caitlin Bobier, who very kindly is bringing along the stuff we need to make the kites and whatnot. Will be there to help us make them. They usually take about 2 hours to make, but it's going to be fun, it's going to be relaxed, we're going to have hot chocolate, it's going to be really nice. And then we plan to next week on the 17th fly the kites, hopefully, if the weather prevails, on Campus Green. So we'll be posting about that as well. And then also on the 18th in the Scrimger building, in the Psychology Common Room, which is room 2.32, we'll be having a LGBT speaker event at about 5 o'clock. It'll be focusing on LGBT mental health, but there'll be a particular emphasis on trans mental health and trans awareness and support. Since that's quite an issue at the moment anyway in media, and also there's just hardly any support for that area of the LGBT community at the moment as well. So we'll be having Frankie, who's the head of the LGBT Society here for Dundee, giving his own experience, and 2 other speakers giving their own experience as well. It'll be informal, it'll be relaxed, we'll be providing tea, coffee, sweeties, and it's just you're welcome to come along whether you are a member of the LGBT community or you're an ally. Just come along, listen and learn, or even share your own experiences. All's welcome. And finally, we've also got on the 27th of November acoustic night, which we'll be planning. So we'll be hopefully having various musicians playing acoustic sets, beg your pardon, and halfway through the acoustic sets we'll have Tom here again giving a talk about mental health as well. So all welcome to come to that, but tune into our Facebook page and the Dundee Mental Health Society's Facebook page for more info for that, as well as our Twitter page, and also even look onto the DUSA Radio and Minds Matters Facebook pages as well for more info on all those events.
Yep, thank you very much, Ellie. Just like to say, we also have throughout the last 2 weeks of November Unwind Your Mind sessions in the library. Mm-hmm. So every other day at 12 or 2 p.m. you're going to be able to come in and do adult colouring in, and just relax and take a break from all the studying that you're doing, as well as we have therapy, arts therapy, dance therapy, mm-hmm. as well as the sports union have free yoga, free gym sessions, free swimming classes. So really this is an opportunity when I know it's getting tough and you're sitting studying, just take a moment. We've got a whole list and there'll be a lot bombarded coming your way on social media.
Definitely.
So just keep your eyes and your ears peeled.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tom. Do you have one last song to play us out?
I had to have, because I'm so keen on the local Dundee music scene, and my favourite band of all used to be called Anderson, McGinty, Webster, Ward and Fisher. They now are Cinderins, but they produced an album which has on it a song called The Pigeon Song, which is sung by Dave Webster, who wrote it, who I was a pleasure of being in the company of last night. And I think Dave's got one of the best voices of anybody I've ever heard. But he's also such a nice guy, and he's a lovely partner Amy, and 2 lovely sons. So I just thought I wanted an uplifting song that is about really, again, connecting with nature, but it is very much something that will always associate me with Dundee.
Perfect. Here we go with The Pigeon Song.
sea on burn, free fly from here, carries me on land and sea. You will find, you will find open sea. Take me, take me. Open door. You must go, you must go. You will find, you will find, you will find your way back home. Take with you a photograph of the ones you love the most. View it daily. Fill a flask of whiskey made with water near your home. Drink it daily. You will find, you will find, you will find your way. Travel light as morning is and travel shy as night. Take the light, cobblestone and beaten paths, sure you're set to see. Take heed, you will find, you will find, you will find your way back home. Brothers old and brothers new, I don't think I'll be seeing you a while. Brothers old and brothers new, I don't think I'll be seeing you a while. Brothers old and brothers new, I don't think I'll be seeing you a while. Brothers old and brothers new, I don't think I'll be seeing you a while. Brothers old and brothers new, I don't think I'll be seeing you a while. You will find, you will find, you will find your way back home.
Online at DUSAmedia.com. From the heart of Dundee, this is DUSA Radio.
DUSA Radio was founded in 2009, and since then has been bringing the students of